I couldn't get the transmission cooler line off effectively, so I think I'm gonna need to resort to this. And I think you guys know this is. It's a tubing or pipe cutter. I got the rest of the cooler lines cut off. Unfortunately, I didn't want to do that, but unfortunately, the flare nuts fittings are welded onto the line itself, so it kind of became necessary to do that. There's also a couple linkages that you need to disconnect down at the transmission. It's the kick down linkage. So those are the transmission lines that cooler lines are cut right there, there, and there. These are a little bit of a pain in the ass, as I said before. These lines are just mangled up by the last person who messed with these, and it's coiled around each other, so the clearance is much tighter, or yeah, hair clip as I like to call it. Right up, let's see, yeah, right up here, if you can see that. This piece, it has a through clip, and you need to flatten out this clip, and once it's flattened out, you can pull it out or push it out, but just be mindful where everything goes. Yeah, let me just get the videos so that I can refer to this information later. This is your accelerator pedal right there. Alright, so I'm going to try to get that clip out and disconnect the transmission from the rest of the transmission and the firewall, because it connects right up there, and you don't want the linkage to stay on when the car's transmission is dropping out, because then it'll just bend the linkage, and then now you're going to have a whole lot of fun looking for parts. So this piece goes back there through the bolt, or through the stud, and right behind that hair clip you'll find this little washer. And thankfully this is very good to designers or original designers of this car. This piece right here that my finger and thumb is between here, they're just like the throttle linkage clip. Alright, so the joint or the ball joint that I was talking about earlier is the right there at the top of my finger. Let's get some light up in there. As you can see, I disconnected that linkage right there from there, so it's that ball joint thing, so it's pretty much the same as the throttle linkage type, where it's like connected by a ball. The same goes for this transmission one right here. But alright, so I think I'm mostly done with the transmission linkages and such that needs to be removed from the bottom. I need to go back up and disconnect the linkage pivot point that's up on the bell housing right here. I believe I did not show this setup that I had maybe a few weeks back. So the thing here is the throttle linkage had some slack, so every time I pushed the throttle, nothing would happen. So I installed a bearing here, so it would stabilize the shaft, or the throttle shaft, pivoting, forward and aft. So let me show you what I got. So if I can point to it, at the tip of my finger, that's that little bearing that supports the entire throttle shaft with this thing moving forward aft. There was a bushing for this. I foolishly got the bushing and thinking that was going to solve all my problems. Wrong. Very, very incorrect. I had to drill 2 holes so that the bolts can come through, and I secured them with a I think it's a nylon lock washer, and then I put this shaft in place, stabilize it, and it seems to be working well, and really no slack at all. I think it has some slack, but I'll need to adjust that again. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be removing. There's a bracket that attaches to the bell housing just down under there in the darkness. So I'm going to remove that, and then this entire throttle linkage is going to be out of the way when the transmission is going to be coming down. So to remove the throttle bracket that stabilizes most of your throttle linkages, you're going to need to twist and contort like never before. So right where my hand is, there's the throttle bracket right here. And right behind there is a nut. It's a 9/16, I believe. And once that's out, you got the bolt. The transmission is disconnected from the throttle bracket, so that can be left alone. So now the only thing that's hanging the transmission on is the transmission shifter cable and the parking pawl cable that's to the rear area of the transmission near the tail shaft. All right, and we're off to the underworld and far beyond. So this is your control shift cable that's going to the transmission case. I scraped off a lot of the dirt that's on here. You can see that right back there. And this piece here, it looks like a nut. So I'm going to see if I can scrunch up some kind of nut that's small enough to go on there. That looks 7/16. Is a neutral safety switch. You can see because it's got that wire coming down and right up to the second, the next to the case. So that's your finger that allows the ground to go through to say, hey, you can crank the motor. It's in neutral. So that's engaged. So that means I have to go back up, disengage the parking pawl off, because I believe that's what I need to do for this control cable to come off. You need to disconnect that. I believe there's going to be some form of some kind of spring. I like it's got a locking spring that keeps this entire cable in here. So as you can see, I'm kind of going against my own safety glasses rules here, because right here I really need to pay attention where everything goes. I don't know what a lot of these adjustment procedures are. I mean, the manual kind of states it vaguely, so it's like, you know, I don't exactly know what it means. So unfortunately I got to keep my safety glasses aside for now, and I'm going to see what I'm doing clearly. And there's a adjustment procedure, or there's a procedure where you have to rotate this entire wheel and get it at a right length thickness. Try my best to keep the adjustments as is where they are, but undo this 7/16 nut right here, and from what the manual is saying, you have to yank this cable out and insert a screwdriver in to undo the spring right up there. You can see that right there. So you have to press on that spring somehow to dislodge this entire cable, and then you can pull it out. All right, update. If you're looking behind me, and you can see that the cable is off. Some of my thoughts on this cable removal procedure. Definitely recommend removing the pan. Remove the pan so you can get access to the shift control cable in another way. Stick a screwdriver up in that hole while this cable is still in there. And they want you to undo that spring that we were looking at earlier. No. That is a pain in the ass. I just tried to do it. I'm like, okay, well, the procedure I'm doing it is not working. So might as well, you know, give it a shot with my method. So what they want you to do from the factory is, you see that spring up there? That spring is what locks this cable in. It's tapered and then it's notched. That looks like a design of the light switch. Rotate it counterclockwise while pushing with the screwdriver from under here. There's a raised tang of this clip here that needs to be rotated clockwise, and then there's an open end, but you can't really exactly see it. There's a slit in this little rod up here. And then when you rotate that clip, it frees up that cable here so that it can be removed back. I'm going to try to reuse this cable if possible, because I believe I saw around on the what is it? There's a website called Imperial Services. They have a lot of the Chrysler C-body parts that these 64 Chryslers tend to have. Now, the Imperial Services, they have this cable, I believe, and it runs like $333 or so. I'm not sure why it's $333, just call it $300. But yeah, $300 dues just to get this cable. So if you're going to be reusing this cable, inspect it for tears, nicks, anything like that, and see if the adjustment wheel still works. Use this cable as much as you can, because hey, freaking $300 dues, that's something else that you could be spending it on, like a transmission rebuild kit or a valve body shift kit or something like that. We're on to the next, which is the parking pole removal, which is back here, which you need to remove this little set screw here, or I believe it's not a set screw, it's just a little plug. Well, we're back down here again, and as you've noticed again, I don't have my safety glasses. Once again, there's not much information that I found. I think I might have found some information related to this parking lot cable, but in case if I don't really find any sufficient information on how to disassemble and how to service this, my eyes are the only things that's going to keep me paying attention on what screw, how many screws are out of adjustments I do, that sort of thing. I just need to pay attention, really. There's supposed to be a Allen head screw right up here. I'll show it to you. So right here, where my screwdriver's pointing at, there's supposed to be a Allen screw right up here, and that's a plug so that you can press the clip in to disengage the parking lot cable. In my case, looks like someone back then, they're like, you know what, they figured out that this is a very prone issue, because if there's an Allen head screw in there, it's going to get filled with dirt, and you're going to strip it out, and then now you're going to have a bad time, unless somebody already did that, and then they put a 7/16 nut here instead. So I guess that problem's been mitigated somewhat. So we're going to be removing this parking lot cable housing here. So some of you may be wondering, well, why not just loosen the 5 bolts surrounding the circumference of the parking lot cable? Simple. There's a spring that's there's a rod in here that's locked in with spring loaded. If you undo those 5 bolts, there's a spring in there that could unwound itself, and then apparently it's going to be a hell of a problem trying to get rewound into place. So apparently the easier thing to do here is removing this plug and trying to undo the adjustment here, undo the adjusting nut here, and removing the plug there. All right, so some of you may have already seen this coming. When you do get the chance to remove that plug, do be sure to have a catch pan below, because I just got doused and showered with ATF. Take this information with a grain of salt, as you will, but unfortunately, I may not be the first one to be inside this transmission. Reason is, so this is the, let's see, this is the drain plug that was on this cable lock parking mechanism that's up here. That's the hole right there. This plug, I partially rounded it off. The reason, because I was using a wrong wrench. It is not 7/16, it is 11 millimeters. Just like the cable adjusting nut down here, that's 11 also. So I looked at the service manual, and this parking lot cable adjustment here, the removal and the adjustment procedures are very similar to the shifter cable that's back over here. So there should be a clip that you have to depress with a screwdriver, minus driver, and yank the cable out. It does strictly say do not use pliers in this case, probably because you'd probably damage this cable here, and then you probably get a leak that you can't fix. So let's see, there's a clip here. I'm not exactly sure if you can see it. Okay, so right there, I think you can just barely see there's a cable or clip in there that you have to depress to get that to release the cable. All right, so since I've got the parking lock cable off, excuse me, I'm going to start removing the drive line from the differential side. I believe this entire drive line here is not a slip yoke type. This is a ball and trunnion type. So the ball and trunnion may be able to slide out of the splined output shaft out of the transmission. If not, the drive line is probably going to have to be disassembled part way between the ball and trunnion and the drive line dust boot cover here, or going to need to be undone by those 4 bolts that's on the ball and trunnion back over there. Also, to aid in the reinstallation, to make sure that the drive line is in the correct orientation again, you might want to get a Sharpie or some kind of marker and mark out which orientation this drive shaft yoke on the differential side came out. I'm gonna get this blue marker and see if I can mark out like here and here or somewhere, just working as a keyway, as a guide of sorts. A little bit of a tidbit is you can rotate the drive shaft if it is out of park. If you haven't removed the parking pole to rotate the drive shaft, do so right now. I didn't forget to mention these are 7/16 bolts. That's holding these drive line to differential bolts in, or differential yoke. This is a little bit of an oversight on my part, forgive me. For the drive line to come down, you need to lower the rear suspension even further so that you have more extension of the ball and trunnion, or well, more free play of the ball and trunnion, so you can move fore and aft. In this case, I have the jack stands, you can't really see it now, but it's mounted on the differential axles. So the car's at resting height, like as if it's on the ground. So to combat this, I think I'm going to need to jack up the rear end again and place the jacks where the frame is. I don't really want to put it on the frames because the frame is kind of looking sketchy enough as it is. But this will be necessary to remove the drive line. These have needle bearings inside, and if you damage this housing inside here of the saddle, you'll probably wreck the needle bearings, and then you'll have to replace the U-joint. Not fun. So I'm gonna be smart about this. I'm gonna partially reconnect this with this one saddle with the 2 bolts. Moved the jack stands that were originally underneath the axles on the differential, and I moved them to the frame. I'll put the jack over there, jack on the other side, so this will allow the differential to slowly come down. So I'm gonna bring the jack down just a little bit to ensure that, of course the jacks are there, so it should be okay. Well, if you don't hear from me, well, I guess something went awry. So now the car is being supported by the jack stands at the the factory approved frame areas in the back over there where the leaf spring connect to. So this allowed the differential to drop down, so now the driveline can be removed. Now, of course, it's not a bad idea to keep the jack here in place just in case if something does go wrong. Extra redundancies definitely does not hurt. So now, since the differential dropped down a bit, the driveline is able to move forward from forward in the direction of the car, and the driveline should be able to be removed. There we go. Now don't move the trunnion, don't move the driveline off center or at an extreme angle, or else you'll tear the dust boot cover on the ball and trunnion joint. When you disconnect the driveline toward the differential end, don't forget to probably wrap some kind of duct tape or some kind of masking tape around the needle bearings, because if those fall out, you're going to be spending a lot of time looking for those needle bearings. Now driveline is supported by the jack. I just kind of need to take a look at the transmission tail shaft end and see if nothing is going awry. The ball and trunnion joint, when the suspension moves up and down, this is what your driveline's doing. So when you're driving down the road over bumps and such, this is what the trunnion joint allows the entire drive shaft to do. Goes in and out, in and out. 2 bolts right here, and then you have 4 on the other side. These are 5/8. Correction, these nuts right here, they are not 5/8, they are 9/16. Sorry about that error. So I got the ball and trunnion bolts out right over there, and now I'm going to see if I can slide this shaft right off. There we go. And there's a drive line. If you can see this. No. All that's remaining now is a cross member, or the transmission cross member, and the bell housing bolts, and I think we're home free. It looks pretty dry back here, so I can safely assume the trunnion is not leaking any grease, which is very good. The transmission, on the other hand, as you can see, it is soaking wet. So it's soaking from every orifice possible. The locking park lock pawl, or the park lock cable, that thing that's dangling right there, was no different. It was just, the gasket was just gone. I don't think anybody installed a gasket there, because I don't really see it. Okay, so now we are going to see if we can undo the cross member now.